Can everybody hear me okay? Yep. Does everybody hear me well? My name's Pete Kosogorin. I've been flying with the Shuttleworth collection since 2002.
I talk about the Anson and also the reason that BAE Systems supports the heritage aircraft. And one of the most significant aspects is obviously that the company is made up of all these different companies that make a lot of the aircraft here at Shuttleworth. Shuttleworth is the spiritual home, if you like, of British aviation and heritage aircraft. So that's one of the reasons why the aircraft are kept here, all of the BAE Systems aircraft. And the other reason is obviously that they've got such great expertise in maintaining and looking after these airplanes. So who likes the new paint scheme? Has anybody got any negative feelings about the new paint scheme, or does everybody quite like it? Sorry?
It's much better than the old scheme.
It does, yeah, I agree. But,
Don't change it.
No, don't change it. Good, excellent. No, we like
It's
it.
nice to have a change, because we've had some years in a civilian scheme, so now we get to see the veterans.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a significant year this year, not only for the Royal Air Force, but also for the Avro Anson. So I think the 28th of June 1968, so not quite 50-year anniversary of the last Royal Air Force Anson retiring from service. So that's a significant milestone of 50 years. And obviously one of the big reasons, one of the great reasons why we changed the colour this year was because of the RAF centenary and the importance of the relationship between the company and heritage aircraft and Royal Air Force Coningsby, hence the colours as a station flight of the aircraft as it flew in the 1960s. So I'll try and talk a little bit about the history. I will refer to my notes just to make sure that I give you the best information that's available. But also I'll tell you a little about flying the aeroplane. So it'll be about 15 minutes or so of a chat, and then there'll be opportunity for questions at the end. So if you have a question, then I'll give you the opportunity at the end, no problem at all. So the Anson first flew in 1935. Roy Chadwick was a designer, very famous chap who worked for Avro, and was involved in the design of the Avro Manchester, which obviously went on to become the Lancaster. 7,000 or so of those were made, and he also was obviously instrumental in design of the Anson. And its inception was as a maritime reconnaissance aircraft, so it's used, so it's very appropriate that it's here today on the Flying Navy Day. And I believe, I'm told, that it flew with about 50 Fleet Air Armed Squadrons during the war, so it's a very ubiquitous aircraft in the maritime role. It also had a great training role. So it was the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan aircraft, and it was used in the UK, Canada, Australia and New Zealand as the Commonwealth Plan, but also in the United States as a multi-engine training aircraft. And I believe 100,000 crews, including gunners, navigators, pilots, were trained using the Avro Anson. So obviously had a massive, significant impact on training during the Second World War, as well as in the maritime reconnaissance role. Right up until the end of its life, it was used as a transport aircraft, as the communications aircraft and the station flight aircraft for stations like Scampton, Marham, Coningsby, and those bases, all of which have obviously a significant relationship with BAE Systems, and obviously still operating RAF aircraft today. The aircraft was named after Admiral Anson. And obviously, as I mentioned, it's used in the maritime role. Just over 8,000 were built in the UK, and just under 3,000 were built in Canada. So 11,000 aircraft, so more than the Lancaster. And I believe that there are a number still in existence in museums, but there are very, very few that are actually flying today, flying examples. And obviously, in its new paint scheme, this is probably one of the nicest that's out there, one of the nicer aircraft that are out there. It's a beautiful aircraft to fly. We normally cruise around about 130, 140 knots, so it's the same sort of speed you'll have in a modern twin piston aircraft if you were just flying around for pleasure or transport. It will fly for around about 4 hours on its 140 gallons of fuel, and the passengers were allowed to carry 2 passengers, although we normally fly for about 3 hours maximum, so we'd have a reserve. So I say it's got 4 hours endurance, we'd never fly it for 4 hours because we'd be close to running out of fuel. But for example, last Thursday we wanted to take the aircraft to RAF Valley for their Families Day to do a display, but unfortunately the weather stopped us, the weather precluded us from being able to do that. But that's about a 3-hour flight, so it's about an hour and 25 minutes to get to Valley, about 10-minute display and about the same coming back. And a very pleasant aircraft to fly, very comfortable. And as you can see from the cockpit, the glass around the windscreen, it's really good visibility, good field of view. A lot of modern aircraft even don't have a very good upward field of view. So if you're turning, when we do some of the more dynamic displays we do here, you can actually see into the turn and look out for other aircraft, look out for other hazards, etc. So it's actually a really nice aeroplane to fly. Controls are rather heavy, not too heavy, but they're rather heavy, so you need to trim. So if you change the speed between a sort of landing speed or take-off speed of around about 80 knots and 120, 130 knots in the cruise, big control force to hold the aircraft level. So obviously we've got the trim wheel which helps us with that, but it's not over difficult like some of the aircraft that the other users I mentioned about it is a Commonwealth training aircraft, but some of the air forces it was used by Afghanistan, Argentina. The aircraft was used to form Gulf Air, so the airline of the Kingdom of Bahrain. I think it was formed by an RAF pilot just after the war, and so it's ubiquitous all around the world as well. So lots of the former Commonwealth countries, but also other countries, and it's used in Africa and Asia, mostly as a transport aircraft. And interestingly, as a transport aircraft and a twin, it's not a bow fighter, it's not a high-performance twin aircraft, or even a night fighter or otherwise. But there were a number of variants in the war, of which a number of them were armed, and this one obviously never was. But they had nose guns and upper guns, and I think in 1941, I'm not sure on the year, but a pilot off. Oh, it's Dunkirk. Sorry, during the Dunkirk evacuation, Ansons were providing cover, and one of them was being attacked by 3 Messerschmitts, and the chap was flying very low, avoiding these aircraft, trying to take them away from his colleagues and distract them from his colleagues. And he was flying very low and slow over the waves. One of the Messerschmitts overshot, and the nose gunner actually shot it down. So it's one of the very few transport aircraft that's got a confirmed air-to-air kill. So I think 2 of the Messerschmitts were actually shot down that day, and one of them was damaged. And that's, I've forgotten the name of the chap who did that. Pilot Officer Peters. There you go. Written down on my notes. Said it flew in 1935 up until 1968. Some of the other operators: Iraq, Ireland, Israel, Netherlands, Norway, Paraguay, Portugal, Rhodesia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Southern Rhodesia, Syria, Turkey and Yugoslavia. So huge amount of air forces. Canada, yeah, so we mentioned Canada, the British Commonwealth training. And there's a provenance of the aircraft being operated up at Warton in Lancashire, so where I'm based and where BAE fly Typhoon and Hawks from today, and have our manufacturing facility where production aircraft are flown from. The Anson was flown by the United States Air Force there during the war for training and for transport. The amount we use the aircraft a year, we probably, I think last year we did about 25 hours flying, which is a lot more hours than has been done in previous years. And part of that is because we attend the Families Day. So I said Valley is a 3-hour flight. We actually went to Lossiemouth to do their Families Day last year, and I think that was, Toby came along. Did we do 8 hours total? 8 hours, yeah. It was 8 hours flying total, just over a weekend. And the aircraft didn't miss a beat, did it? But so actually, I think it does it some good to fly it more, and the long flights are not onerous for it. It copes really well.
No, it burns all the condensation out of the water. Yeah. Long flights.
Any further? Sorry, there's one.
Do you know how long they were used for coastal patrol?
How long they were used for coastal patrol? That's a good question. I think that was one of its earliest roles.
Well, that's what it's designed for.
Yeah. I wouldn't like to say when it actually stopped, when it came out of service for coastal patrol. And it's a maritime reconnaissance. I don't know whether it had anti-submarine capability, but I know it was reconnaissance. It was coastal reconnaissance around the UK. And
that's when I was in Cheshire, about a couple of miles from Worcester. So anything that went over either the Anson or the Lancaster.
So I think the Hudson was used as well, wasn't it? That was used a lot.
That's replaced.
Yeah, and I think that might have been sort of midway through the 42, 43, something like that. And these aircraft would have then gone into a training role. So that's probably why they were used as a trainer. Yeah. A very reliable aircraft as a trainer, a good aircraft as a trainer. Any further questions? Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoy the show. Hope you have a good day. Thank you.